After Seri nervously gets her passport photo taken, she hesitantly suggests that she and Jung-hyuk take a picture together to remember the moment. But Jung-hyuk, in his usual quiet way, says there's no need to remember each other. His words hit Seri harder than expected, and she pouts, feeling disappointed. Trying to hide her feelings, she storms off, upset but determined not to show it. However, after she leaves, Jung-hyuk quietly buys an extra picture of her from the photographer, keeping a small piece of her memory for himself, even though he doesn't say it out loud. Later, Seung-joon spots Seri at the hotel and, without thinking, pulls her into an elevator. Just as the doors close, Jung-hyuk appears and follows them in, his expression dark. Without a word, he shoves Seung-joon forcefully against the wall, clearly not happy with the situation. Seri quickly reassures him, saying she knows Seung-joon, but Jung-hyuk isn't convinced. He still grabs Seung-joon and twists his arm, ready to do more damage. Seri, trying to diffuse the tension, explains that Jung-hyuk is her bodyguard, and Jung-hyuk's incredulous, almost comical look makes the whole scene even more awkward and funny. When they finally step out of the elevator, Jung-hyuk's glare is still fixed on Seung-joon as if daring him to make another move. He turns to Seri and bluntly asks why she's in North Korea. Seri is taken aback, surprised that he hasn't heard about her disappearance. Jung-hyuk stays silent about what Se-hyung told him, about her supposed death, and the atmosphere grows heavier. Just as the tension peaks, they hear Se-hyung's men approaching. Seung-joon quickly makes plans to meet Seri in the coffee shop later, slipping a tip to Jung-hyuk in a hurry before he disappears, leaving them awkward. Jung-hyuk's glare shifts to Seri, clearly irritated by her explanation. Seri, trying to keep things light, admits that she had to come up with a reason for why they're together. She insists she didn't exactly lie, but Jung-hyuk is quick to argue that he's not really protecting her, even though he's been shielding her from everything, from passing strangers to a stray kid's ball. Seri smirks, teasing him, saying he's acting exactly like a bodyguard, and Jung-hyuk's stern expression softens just a little, but he doesn't say anything. Later, over coffee, Jung-hyuk asks Seri how she knows Seung-joon. She takes a slow breath, her expression serious, and says that to answer that question, she'll have to tell him about her family. She opens up, revealing that she really is the daughter of a powerful conglomerate family, and with that status came a life that was more about business than anything else. She explains how her relationship with her brothers is competitive, driven by their shared ambition. As part of their efforts to control her, they introduced her to Seung-joon, a foreign national, hoping to marry her off and force her to leave the country, to tie her down with something they could use. Seri leans back, a wistful look crossing her face as she muses that her brothers are probably thrilled, believing her to be dead. Jung-hyuk, trying to offer some comfort, insists that even if they never got along, her brothers must feel some sorrow over her disappearance. Seri smiles sadly, but the expression doesn't reach her eyes. She knows better, he couldn't be more wrong about how her family would feel. Meanwhile, a woman nearby notices Jung-hyuk talking with Seri and quickly calls Dan. On the phone, Dan downplays the situation, pretending it's not a big deal. But as soon as the call ends, she turns to her mother with a sudden change in demeanor. She calmly instructs her to arrange a dinner with Jung-hyuk's parents that very night at the Pyongyang hotel. Later, back at Seri's hotel room, Jung-hyuk steps in, his usual calmness intact as he casually starts to remove or disable a series of surveillance bugs hidden around the room. He explains to Seri that every room in the hotel is likely bugged, a necessary precaution in their world. He mentions that he'll be staying in the room next door but tells her not to call him unless it's an absolute emergency. The weight of his words is clear. Things are about to get even more complicated, and they need to be cautious. Junghyuk gives Seri a stern warning to keep a low profile if she wants her escape plan to work. He knows the stakes are high, but Seri, feeling frustrated, whines that she just can't blend in with the common people. She stands out too much. Without missing a beat, Junghyuk tells her to take a nap because she's clearly delusional. Seri, not deterred, starts to hatch an idea. She figures that if she could get Seungjoon to help her leave the country, or at least contact her family, things might move more quickly. She believes Seungjoon is only there on business and will head back home soon. With a sigh, Seri says it must have been destiny that she and Seungjoon found each other, but Junghyuk scoffs in disbelief. He counters with an example of his own. He found her after she literally fell from the sky, and despite her running away, she still ended up at his house. Seri, with a playful glint in her eye, asks if he wants to be her destiny too, causing Junghyuk to backpedal quickly, his face betraying his discomfort. Meanwhile, Dan makes her way to the hotel, using one of her contacts to track down Junghyuk's room number. When she spots Junghyuk exiting Seri's room, her mood darkens instantly. She walks up to Seri with a sharp edge in her voice, admitting she got a tip and wanted to see if it was true. Seri tries to explain that they're staying in separate rooms, but Dan cuts her off, snapping that she didn't ask Seri for an explanation. The tension between them rises, the air thick with unspoken rivalry and suspicion. Meanwhile, chaos unfolds elsewhere in the hotel as Seungjoon is chased through hallways and stairwells by CEO Jeon and the thugs working for Sehyang. He runs until there's nowhere left to go and ends up cornered on the hotel roof, panting and trapped. CEO Jeon puts Sehyang on the phone, and Seungjoon, sweating and desperate, offers a meek apology. But Sehyang isn't interested in hearing excuses until Seungjoon suddenly mentions that he's seen Seri alive. That changes everything. Seungjoon, quick to seize the moment, offers a deal. He'll return half of the stolen money and keep the other half in exchange for updates on Seri's location. It's a risky bargain, but it buys him his freedom, for now. The threat still lingers, but at least he's no longer backed into a corner. He stays on the roof afterward, catching his breath, when Dan unexpectedly appears. Without missing a beat, she dryly tells him that if he's thinking of jumping, he should at least find a taller roof. Seungjoon, always quick with sarcasm, guesses that she's up there to sulk over some guy trouble. For once, Dan lets her guard down. In a rare moment of honesty, she tells him that she just caught her fiancé with another woman, words laced with bitterness, but also something softer, more vulnerable. Seungjoon, trying to lighten the mood, tells Dan not to let it get to her. Men don't like sticking around women who get upset with them. His words are flippant, but there's a trace of sympathy underneath. Dan, not one to be outdone, turns the question back on him and asks what he's doing up on the roof. He gives a vague reply, saying he's having some money problems. Dan, unfazed, offers him some advice of her own. Money tends to come to those who ignore it, and run from those who chase it. It's a cool, almost philosophical comment, but it seems to land. They share a quiet moment, and for the first time, exchange names. Dan even shakes Seungjoon's hand, a small but surprising gesture of connection. Later that evening, As Seri and Junghyuk prepare to head downstairs for their separate dinner plans, Seri can't help but poke fun. She jokes that Junghyuk seems to have survived Dan's piercing eye lasers unscathed. Junghyuk remains silent, but Seri keeps the mood playful. She reassures him that Seungjoon isn't dangerous, just familiar. But Junghyuk isn't convinced. He warns her to stay alert. Sometimes the people you trust are the ones who end up stabbing you in the back. Seri, always quick with a comeback, grins and teases him about his intense, "I'm in love and worried" face. Without missing a beat, Junghyuk reaches over and touches her forehead, jokingly checking if she has a fever. It's a small moment, but charged with warmth, an unspoken closeness growing between them, even amid all the danger. Dan is immediately on edge when her mother arrives for the dinner with Junghyuk's family, clearly having gone all out. She's wearing an excessive amount of makeup and sporting one of her strange, dramatic hairstyles, looking more like she's heading into battle than a formal family dinner. Alarmed, Dan asks what she's doing, but her mother stands tall and declares that she's ready for war. She refuses to let Junghyuk's parents have the upper hand just because she's a widow. This time, she's determined to hold her ground. Meanwhile, Seungjoon sits with Seri and begins spinning a story about why he's in Pyongyang. He claims he's doing market research on behalf of a high-profile investor, trying to make it sound official and legitimate. But Seri sees right through him and immediately calls it out as a lie. She's not interested in his made-up stories. What she really wants to know about is the money he conned out of Sehyang. Seungjoon brushes it off, insisting it was all a misunderstanding that got smoothed over after she disappeared. But Seri remains skeptical, clearly not buying his convenient version of events. Dinner with the parents turns out to be painfully awkward. Dan's mother, never one to hold back, starts making pointed comments about how her daughter is getting older and still isn't married. She grumbles loudly that she agreed to delay the wedding out of respect when Muhyuk died, but it's been 7 years now, and she's tired of waiting. The tension at the table is thick. Trying to move things forward, director Ri steps in and suggests holding the wedding at the end of next month. He even offers to have Junghyuk transferred to Pyongyang and promises to set the couple up in a house. Dan's mother is instantly thrilled, practically beaming, and enthusiastically offers to furnish the house with brand new appliances. Junghyuk agrees to all of it, his expression calm and unreadable. But Dan remains silent the entire time, her face composed but clearly unsettled. Later, Dan crosses paths with Seri in the hotel's ladies' room. They air crackers with hostility as Dan throws out a sharp insult, calling Seri slutty for spending time in a hotel with one man and having coffee with another. Seri, unfazed, smiles sweetly and says she already had coffee with Junghyuk earlier today. Dan fires back coldly, revealing that they've just set a wedding date. Seri replies coolly that she'll be long gone by then. Dan sneers that Seri leaving would be the best wedding gift she could ask for. Meanwhile, during Seungjoon and Seri's earlier conversation, CEO Jeon had secretly taken a photo of them together and sent it to Sehyang as proof that they'd really found her. But Sehyang, ever suspicious, accuses Seungjoon of simply snapping a photo of someone who looks like Seri. To shut down any doubt, Seungjoon leaves the call line open as Seri returns, allowing Sehyang to hear her voice for himself. It's undeniable. She's alive. After leaving the hotel, Seungjoon and Seri go for a walk, with Seungjoon casually holding his phone so that Sehyang can keep listening in on their conversation. Seung-joon gently asks how she ended up in North Korea, but Seri replies that she can't talk about it yet. She promises to explain everything once she's safely back in Seoul. Instead, she gives him a message. When he returns home, he's to tell her father that she's alive and to continue as planned at the upcoming shareholders meeting. Seung-joon agrees, even though he knows full well he has no intention or ability to leave the country anytime soon. As the dinner ends and the parents begin to leave, Jung-hyuk spots Seri walking with Seung-joon across the street. A flicker of unease flashes across his face, and he quietly starts following them, keeping his distance on the opposite sidewalk. But after trailing them for a while, he suddenly loses sight of them in the crowd. Panic immediately sets in. He looks around, searching desperately, his calm exterior cracking for the first time. Meanwhile, Seri and Seung-joon witness a woman on the street being scolded for wearing a skirt that's considered too short. The moment feels surreal, and they exchange glances, quietly marveling that things like this actually happen here. But their amusement quickly fades when a patrol officer questions them about why they aren't wearing a portrait pin of the great leader. Thinking fast, Seung-joon pulls out his British ID and pretends not to understand Korean. The act works, and the officer, irritated but satisfied, lets them go. Jung-hyuk finally catches up to them and storms over, his glare fixed squarely on Seri, clearly furious. Without protest, Seri agrees to return to the hotel with him. On the way back, Jung-hyuk scolds her, his voice sharp with worry. He tells her that if she wants him to protect her, she needs to stay where he can see her. His frustration isn't just about safety, it's something deeper, something he doesn't dare admit out loud. They stop at a small bar to rest, ordering some beer and fried chicken, comfort food that brings a rare moment of calm. As they settle in, chatting quietly, the lights suddenly go out. There's no panic, just routine. The staff moves swiftly, handing out candles to the unbothered patrons, like it's something that happens all the time. Sure enough, the power flickers back on just a few moments later. As they sip their drinks, Seri looks out the window and notices that it's snowing. She lights up and tells Jung-hyuk that, where she's from, being with someone during the season's first snowfall means you're destined to fall in love. Jung-hyuk lets out a tired sigh and says that would be a real mess, especially between the two of them. Seri's smile fades, and she asks with a little edge in her voice if it's because he's supposed to be with Dan. Jung-hyuk, caught off guard, throws the question back at her. He asks if she's bipolar because he genuinely can't figure out what she wants or how she really feels. Seri softens a little and admits she doesn't understand her own mood swings either. It's a rare moment of honesty between them, frustrated, a little vulnerable, but real. Tired and a little tipsy, Seri leans her head on Jung-hyuk's shoulder, seeking quiet comfort. When he tries to nudge her away, she gives him a light, lazy punch in protest. She tells him her head feels heavy, not from the alcohol, but because she has so much on her mind. Jung-hyuk sighs, clearly conflicted, and reminds her that she'll be going home soon, so she should be happy. But Seri quietly replies that liking it is the problem. The weight of those few words says everything. She's starting to care more than she wants to, and that scares her. Meanwhile, back in Seoul, Secretary Hong and Suchan are also enjoying chicken and beer as they sit and watch the snow fall. They've just handed over proof that Seri is alive to the police, a major breakthrough. Suchan is practically buzzing with excitement at the thought of Seri coming home soon. But Secretary Hong, more relaxed, half jokes that he hopes she doesn't return too quickly. He's been enjoying the break from the usual chaos that surrounds her. Elsewhere in the city, things take a darker turn. Sehyung and Sanga meet with Mr. Roh, Seungjoon's business partner in Seoul. Their tone is cold and calculated as they give him a chilling order: make sure Seri never returns from North Korea. At the same time, back up north, CEO Jeon tells Seungjoon that as long as Seri stays out of South Korea, Sehyung will drop the issue of the money Seungjoon swindled. The unspoken message is clear: Seri's life is now the bargaining chip in everyone's game. At the State Security Department, Chul Kang is brought in for questioning about the recent truck accidents, but he shows no signs of fear or anxiety. Calm and smug, he addresses his interrogator by name, something he shouldn't know, and a deliberate move to unsettle the officer. Then, with a calculated smile, he brings up the luxurious apartment the officer's daughter received when she got married, claiming that he paid for it by selling off some of his antiques. He casually adds that he's done similar favors for officers even higher in rank, making it clear that his connections and past generosity have bought him powerful immunity. Unsurprisingly, he's released without consequence. Waiting outside is the senior colonel, a figure from Chul Kang's past. Chul Kang reminds him of their long history, how the colonel took him in when he was an orphan and helped him rise through the ranks. He says that because of that, his loyalty is absolute, no matter the circumstances. The message is clear: Chul Kang knows where the real power lies, and he intends to stay protected by it. Later, Chul Kang pays a visit to Seungjoon, checking in under the guise of casual interest. Seungjoon shows him a photo of Seri and explains, carefully, that she's a friend, someone from a wealthy South Korean family. He speaks cautiously, not wanting to raise suspicion. Chul Kang, already in the loop, tells him there's a plan in place for Seri to leave the country in a few days. That sets off alarms for Seungjoon. Realizing that if Seri makes it back to Seoul, his situation, and possibly his life, will be in serious danger, he leans in and urges Chul Kang to make sure that doesn't happen. His tone is tense, and the fear is clear: if Seri leaves, everything he's been trying to protect could fall apart. Meanwhile, Seri gathers the village wives and delivers the news with dramatic flair: she's leaving Junghyuk, and it's because of Dan. She paints it as a noble sacrifice, saying she doesn't want to cause Junghyuk pain by staying close to him. With a faraway look in her eyes, she declares that their love will remain engraved on their hearts, even if they must part ways. The wives, swept up in the emotion of the moment, grow misty-eyed, clearly moved by her story. But the mood shifts when Wol Suk hugs Seri and gently says that, realistically, the relationship would have fallen apart anyway, they're just too different. She even adds that Seri isn't the kind of woman in-laws usually like. Seri, stung, can't hide her offense. Wol Suk doesn't back down, accusing her of pretending to be sweet while always talking back. What starts as a heartfelt farewell quickly spirals into a spat, with both women trying to be the first to storm out in a huff. Elsewhere, Chul Kang brings the photo of Seri to Manbok, the wiretapper, who has never actually seen her face until now. Chul Kang coldly informs him that he's been ordered to make sure Seri stays in North Korea permanently. He adds that, thanks to the information Manbok has provided, he'll not only be getting rid of a problem but also making a profit in the process. The message is laced with threat, and Manbok is left deeply uneasy. Back in the village, Seri hosts the squad one last time for Ramyun. She tells them that this time, she's really leaving. But before she goes, she wants to go on a picnic with them, a final memory together. Jisoo groans and complains as usual, but it's all bark. He ends up dragging the cart, which is stacked ridiculously high with supplies, while the others follow behind, a strange little family reluctantly indulging in Seri's sentimental goodbye. As they make their way to the picnic spot, Seri is taken aback when she notices shovels and axes among the supplies. Suspicious, she asks what they're for, and Jisoo, never one to miss a chance to tease her, grins and jokes, "I'll regret sending you back in one piece instead of burying you here for the rest of my life." Seri gives him a wary look, half laughing, half unsure whether he's actually kidding. Curious, she asks where Junghyuk and Yoondong are. Jisoo explains that Yoondong went ahead to start the fire, but Junghyuk simply said he had something to take care of and disappeared for now. When the group finally catches up to Yoondong, Seri's face lights up. He's holding a baby pig, and she squeals with delight at the adorable surprise, until she realizes what it's actually for. Her smile fades fast when she learns the piglet is meant to be lunch. Horrified, she protests that she can't possibly eat it, especially now that she's made eye contact with it. The guys exchange looks but give in, sparing the piglet. Instead, they switch plans and head to the river, happily scavenging for fish and crabs to cook, turning the day into something lighter and more memorable. After their feast, Jisoo stands to recite a poem he wrote for Seri. When you hammer a nail, the nail goes into the wall. When the wind blows, a persimmon falls from the branch. But this woman does whatever she wants. She didn't die when we fired a gun at her. When we criticize her, it doesn't affect her. What a troublemaker. But, as you are leaving soon, please do me this favor. Be well. Don't get hurt. Live a good life. Don't forget us. If you're exposed, don't you dare tell them my name. The poem starts out funny, but the mood shifts quickly when Jisoo's words make everyone realize that this might be their last time with Seri. The thought of her leaving makes them all feel sad. Yoondong, sensing the sadness, asks Seri to sing. Her song, though simple, is about saying goodbye to someone you care about. As Seri sings, Junghyuk arrives, and their eyes meet, sharing a quiet moment of sadness before everything changes. The next morning, Junghyuk quietly sees Seri off, sending her to the airport with Kwangbum. He suggests that it's better to say goodbye in the village, where they've shared so many memories. Seri admits that she will miss him and feels sad about not being able to check in on each other anymore. Junghyuk, trying to hide his own pain, tells her he hopes she forgets about him once she leaves and goes back to her life, hoping she will be happy. But deep down, he knows it will be hard for both of them to forget the bond they've shared. Junghyuk extends his hand, but Seri, feeling the weight of their goodbye, asks for a hug instead. However, Junghyuk doesn't move, leaving his hand outstretched. With a heavy heart, Seri takes his hand, shaking it slowly, the simple gesture carrying all the sadness of their farewell. In the bunker, Manbok overhears the quiet, heartbreaking moment between them. As Seri and Kwangbum drive away, he makes the call to Chulkang, reporting that they've left, but after hanging up, he can't hold back his grief. He lowers his head to his desk, his body shaking as he sobs quietly, the sorrow of the farewell too much to bear. Meanwhile, as the sun begins to rise, Kwangbum and Seri make their way down a quiet, isolated road. Suddenly, Kwangbum notices a large armored Kamach truck approaching fast from behind, as if it's trying to force them off the road. He swerves quickly to avoid it, but then they realize that there's another Kamach truck in front of them, trapping them in a dangerous situation. Out of nowhere, a motorcyclist speeds past them on the access road. Without warning, the rider pulls out a gun and shoots out the tires of the Kamach truck that's heading straight for them. The driver in the first truck starts firing back, and the motorcyclist quickly brakes, narrowly avoiding the gunfire. But as they're still trying to process the chaos, the Kamach truck rams into Seri's vehicle, forcing Kwangbum to swerve violently and slam on the brakes. Then, a third Kamach truck comes into view, making the situation even more dangerous. Kwangbum tells Seri to get out of the vehicle, but as Seri watches, the motorcyclist zooms past them on the highway, and her heart stops when she recognizes him. It's Jung Hyuk, and without his helmet, she sees him clearly. He lays down his bike with precision, grabs a pistol, and fires at the oncoming truck, standing firm even as the massive vehicle skids to a halt, just inches from him. The truck crashes into the motorcycle, and a massive explosion erupts, sending flames and debris into the air. Seri rushes to Jung Hyuk, desperate to make sure he's okay, but the driver of the Kamach truck has already gotten out and is aiming his gun at them. In a split second, Jung Hyuk pulls Seri close and shields her, taking a bullet in the back as he does. Kwangbum, trying to protect them, attempts to shoot the truck driver but is shot in the leg. Jung Hyuk, barely conscious, summons his last strength to kill the driver, but as he falls, blood staining his clothes, he passes out in Seri's arms, leaving her broken. Additional scene. While the others are enjoying their picnic, Jung Hyuk stays behind, working quietly on a motorcycle. He's adding special equipment to it, knowing it will allow the bike to go faster than it's meant to. His focus is intense, a quiet determination in his eyes. He takes a moment to check out a large arsenal of weapons from the armory, carefully choosing the ones he might need. The soldier in charge notices, his concern growing as he sees the amount of firepower Jung Hyuk is gathering. He asks him if everything is okay, but Jung Hyuk only nods, his mind already set on what needs to be done. On the morning of Seri's departure, Jung Hyuk takes the first step toward fulfilling the promise he made to her. He heads out ahead of her, having briefed Kwangbum on the potential danger and what might happen. Keeping a safe distance, he follows Seri's truck, unseen, making sure she's safe as she leaves. In the quiet of his thoughts, he repeats the promise he made to her, "As long as you're in my sight, I will protect you. No matter what." It's a promise he intends to keep, no matter the cost.